be applying for additional grants under, it's called New York Bridge. That's a new grant money coming out. I believe it was like $250 million in there. So we'll be working with those same engineers in there who identified some deficiencies within our underground culverts, such as the Manhegan Brook and the Draper Brook, to try to apply for additional funding that will be over and above the $3.5 million. No final recommendation has been made yet about purchasing of private property or daylighting any parts of the culvert or anything like that yet.
Do we still have time in the project?
Yes, when we had the meeting, we met with New York Rising, we met with the management, Lori Du Bois and the board, I'm sorry.
Is there a deadline?
Huh?
'Cause I know
There
the
was a
money-
deadline, I don't remember it off.
2019 expired or the money
Yeah,
expired?
I don't, and honestly, I wasn't prepared for this. I don't want to throw dates I'm not sure of. But
Okay.
when we had that meeting, which I addressed like a month ago or 2 months ago, we still have time. But I'll next council meeting, I will get you the deadlines for it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jacob. Fire Chief?
Excuse me one second.
Good evening, everybody. I'm representing Donnie tonight. There's nothing to report, but if you have any questions, I'll take them back and get some answers for you.
Any questions for the new Fire Chief? Welcome.
Thank you.
Police Chief?
Good evening. Just a couple items this evening. First, I would like to just remind people that Nixle is up and running. We did put some information out twice this week so far. We used it once for a test here in City Hall, and then once again today to put out some information in regards to the storm and keeping the streets clean. For anybody that's not aware, sitting at home, it is a software program that allows us to communicate with our community, to push out information and receive information funneled back to us as well. For anybody that would like to sign on, it's a quick, easy text from their cell phone. If they text 888-777, text Middletown, the word Middletown, with a capital M to 888-777, it'll sign you into the Nixle program and you'll receive our updates. The second item I have is just a reminder, next Thursday, March 15th at 7 p.m., I'll be hosting a town hall style meeting right here in the Common Council chambers. I encourage all residents to please come out. It's an opportunity for you to air your concerns, share your positive, your negative interactions with the police, build rapport. To better improve the community relations, this is a great opportunity, if nothing else, just to meet me and my staff and to let us know where we need to improve and what's important to you as city residents. Other than that, any questions?
Any questions for the Police Chief? Thank you, Chief. Corporation Counsel?
Nothing this evening unless you have any questions.
Question from Rich? Thank you, Richard. City Clerk?
Just, I had a couple calls about licensed electricians in the city of Middletown. I just wanted the public know that the list is on the website, and it's for the plumbers and for the electricians. They are the licensed plumbers. In January and February is when all the renewals are done, and all those lists have been updated. I just wanted to let the public know. That's all I have for this evening.
Question for John? Thank you, John. Mayor?
Good evening. A couple of positive notes. The committee for the Bob Bierstow Annual St. Patrick's Day Benefit would like to let the council and the general public know about the upcoming event. The Wallkill Engine Company number 6 of the Middletown Fire Department, along with the friends and family of Bob Bierstow, are hosting a St. Patrick's Day Benefit on Saturday, March 17th at the Middletown Elks Club. The time is 6 p.m. and the cost at the door is $35 per person. This includes a delicious corned beef dinner, chicken for those who don't eat corned beef, but I don't know who doesn't eat corned beef on March 17th, beer, wine, soda, and dessert. There will be Irish step dancers, not the Bierstow family, Larry and the gang, but there will be legitimate Irish step dancers and a bagpiper as well, along with raffles and tricky tray and wonderful donations from many of the businesses in our community. This year's proceeds will benefit both the Wallkill Engine Company number 6 as well as the Middletown Parks and Rec Department Scholarship Program for Youth Programs, and that's why we're here announcing it tonight. The event is bound to be a wonderful time for two great causes. As most of you know, Bob was a lifelong Middletown resident, proud of his family and proud of his community and proud of his fire company. He ran the Neil Turfler Tournament each year, generating thousands of dollars for the Wallkill Fire Company, or helped run it. Please help us continue to honor Bob's memory by supporting the event. Information you can check with Mary Z. There is a website. Mary Z is Mary Zahorchek. She's also my secretary. There's a website with all the information also, and the information is on Channel 23 as well. I'm sure they would appreciate your support, and the Wallkills and the Middletown Parks and Rec would support, will appreciate your assistance and the generous donation they will be making. I want to thank the Middletown Little League and Darren Cross for coming here and making a presentation. I don't recall the last time the Little League was here addressing the board. I'm experiencing it firsthand this year. My grandson is almost 4 years old and playing t-ball, and they have a lot of very patient volunteers, I can assure you that. And so we will be, the city will be represented at the annual parade. And I note for the council, it is a Saturday morning this year, not the traditional Sunday afternoon. One area, recycling. I know I mentioned it in my State of the State. Alderman Jean-Francois has been a major person pushing increased recycling. And as you know, the numbers haven't changed. The 6% participation rate hasn't changed over the years. At his urging, we are going to pick up recycling now every week, rather than skip the 13 weeks in which there are holidays. The Board of Estimate has approved it, so we will make it effective immediately, so there will be no longer a piling up of recycling at your home, encouraging you to put it in the garbage and the regular garbage. We're hoping this will have an effect on, in a positive way. It's going to cost some money, but we're going to figure out the money part later with some vacancy review. But for now, the Board of Estimate has approved it, and it is in effect right now. So the next holiday, I'm not sure when it's coming up. I believe I'm not sure, but the next city sanctioned holiday. But that week, what is it? Good Friday. Good Friday, okay. That week, recycling will be picked up. So please note that. We will do a Nixle notification as Chief Bethencourt, my gosh. What a mistake that was. Gosh, that was an insult. No. We like Chief Bethencourt, and we like Chief Uwancho. But he, as he mentioned, the Nixle system is very important, especially in times like this where we may have to call a snow emergency tomorrow. And when we do order a snow emergency, that will require all vehicles to be removed from city streets. So, or they're subject to be towed. And also, there's a whole bunch of laws that kick in effect when a snow emergency is declared that don't protect your vehicle as a vehicle owner. So if we do call a snow emergency, it will be notified over Nixle along with any other means that we have. But it's very important for people to start signing up for the program. And hopefully, if you haven't done so, you will do so very soon. We had a conference call today, a statewide conference call regarding the storm. The governor's office had all of the state agencies on, from MTA to Thruway Authority. They did talk about the possibility of coordinated services if there is a major disaster in the community. So we do have emergency numbers in place. They are expecting, from what they said today, possibly 12 to 16 inches of snow north of 84. And of course, we are north of 84. So we're hoping that it's not as bad as people are saying, but they're expecting the worst. So please, our residents, be prepared for tomorrow to keep your car off the street as much as possible. I believe the snow is going to start sometime this evening or later tonight. And we hope that you will cooperate with the request to keep your vehicle off of the city streets. CPV. I've been trying to post as much on Facebook as I possibly can regarding CPV. As you know, we're in contact with them on a daily basis. Today's activity regarding CPV, they completed their last steam blow this morning at about 6:30 a.m., and the plant is now shut down. The steam was visible, quite visible this morning on 84 in the south end of the city. They are beginning their restoration period, which will be several weeks. So this plant will not operate during the restoration period of several weeks. I met last week with Ed Diana and the Wallkill Town Board. We've been in contact with Dave Cole, the councilman in the town of Wawayanda, who was kind enough to come last week here. And we're going to be discussing with them the possibilities of additional monitoring that would be shared cost between the communities. And of course, we're going to probably approach CPV requesting that they pick up the tab at some point. The reason why we don't do it now is we want it to be as independent as possible. We don't want CPV to be controlling our independent engineer. Today, we had, as you know, the independent engineering company that we hired is CDM Smith, and they've been in contact with both the DEC and the NCPV, and of course the city. There was a conference call today that, first I'd like to thank the regional director of the DEC, Kelly Totoro, for her attention that she's been paying to this matter and a real focus that the DEC has put on this issue since we started calling and since CDM got involved in the project. They've made a major impact on the operation of the facility, and I just want to read some of the comments from today's conference call. Cynthia Hibbert is our representative from CDM. The attendees on the phone was a conference call were not only the regional director, Kelly Totoro, George Schweikart, Alyssa, we don't have a last name on Alyssa, but Andrew Chain from the region. We also had the Albany Central Office of DEC, Chris Hogan, Bob Stanton, Chris Malone. I was on for part of the call. Jacob Tawil was on the entire call, along with representatives from CDM Smith, Cynthia Hibbert, Dave Smith, and Amit Sen. The purpose was to share the information about excess emissions from the CPV plant during the commissioning process. We want to know what their plans were for minimizing these emissions and to coordinate oversight, monitoring, and compliance assurances activities to protect the community from any additional excess emissions. Director Toro stated that the DEC had spoken with the city regarding the air monitoring of CPV on a few occasions, and she understood and that city had hired CDM. CDM was present, and CDM was now representing the city with any calls and communications with the DEC, along with our representative Jacob Tawil. Jacob brought up the fact that we not only want a short-term plan for monitoring, but we also want a long-term plan, and that Cynthia Hibbert from CDM would lead the discussion on that with CPV and the DEC. On February 24th, CDM met with CPV. At the startup, they were operating the turbines at a low load while performing the steam blows. During these activities, air pollution control devices were not online. We have mentioned that before, that it was part of the problem. The pollution control devices were not online. This resulted in widespread community impacts and complaints of diesel fumes from February 18th through the 19th. CPV has since increased the turbine load with no heat recovery. There's some technical stuff in here to increase exhaust temperatures and flows to help with dispersion. CDM Smith understands that the continuous emission monitoring systems are not yet required to be operating under the EPA guidelines, and that CPV does not have to meet air emission standards, air emission limits during the shakedown period, which is this period of bringing the plant up to operation. However, As a major source of hazardous air pollutants, CPD does have, quote, a general duty to minimize emissions during all operations. CPV then agreed and stated to the city that they will install the selective catalytic reduction and oxidation catalysts, which are the air control devices, after completing the steam blows, which were done today. And during the next several weeks, when the plant was in a shutdown period, for the steam blow restoration, CDM Smith will likely identify what steps can be taken to minimize the excess emissions when they restart the plant a few weeks down the road, and what options are available for monitoring CPV's operations both during commissioning and long term. George from the DEC stated that they had a conversation with CPV, and CPV provided the same information on operating the turbines as we had previously had. CPV committed to the DEC that CPV would operate the turbines exclusively at high loads. However, the DEC was at the site on Sunday and Monday, and yesterday and the day before yesterday, and the DEC observed diesel fumes at ground level. As of today, CPV has completed the steam blows, as I mentioned, and has shut down the plant for at least 3 weeks. When CPV restarts, they will be burning fuel until May 1st, when CPV will complete the equipment testing and commissioning. After May 1st, CPV will not operate until they have natural gas available. CPV has agreed to compress their testing schedule on fuel oil. CDM asks if the DEC's understanding that the SCR and oxidation catalyst control devices will be operating when CPV restarts the turbines in 3 weeks, and the DEC confirmed yes. That is a big plus for the air emission issue. CDM asks if DEC believes that CPV has had any permit violations during the commissioning to date. The DEC stated that CPV has not been meeting the plume opacity requirements and has not been keeping daily opacity records. DEC has issued a warning, but is not taking additional enforcement action at this time. DEC has asked CPV to maintain a logbook of plume opacity observations at a minimum of 3 to 4 times a day, and to have that person who's performing the test or the visual to sign it. If CPV has had a visible plume for more than a couple of hours, they must mitigate immediately and conduct a formal Method 9 opacity reading. Jacob can probably explain that a little bit better than I could. Regarding sampling, George from DEC stated any sampling CDM Smith plans to do should take place 3 weeks from now. The plant is located near Route 84, therefore it will be difficult to isolate plant emissions from traffic emissions. Cynthia stated that the aldehydes is the primary hazardous air pollutant of concern and that we are asking for monitoring of that. But she acknowledged that tracking the plant's plume with ground level monitoring would be difficult. Jacobson participated. He asked and requested if stack testing should be considered. The DEC does not have a regulatory limit on those all types of testing from combustion sources and cannot require stack testing for the formaldehyde. Cynthia stated that there is no continuous monitoring device for that, but portable samplers are available, and that would be something we may look into. CDM also asked if the DEC would consider requiring CPV to install continuous opacity monitors, also known as COMs, and George stated that the DEC has received CPV's pre-construction permit renewal application. DEC has discussed requiring COMs and will add this to the permit, given the opacity issues CPV has had. The COMs will not be installed and operating until the end of this year, however. But it is a significant move for the DEC to require that in their permanent permit. CDM also asked if remote sensor cameras should be considered to monitor opacity for the short term. The DEC stated that the DEC has asked CPV to monitor opacity every day and submit the results to them to the DEC quarterly. In addition, DEC will be at the CPV plant every day, and DEC will check the plume opacity. DEC has certified Method 9 observers. He does not think that installing a camera to monitor plume opacity for the short term would be necessary. Jacob stated that for the benefit of the citizens, actual air samples should be taken. The DEC stated that DEC has collected 1 hour SUMA canister samples, 1 upwind sample, and 2 downwind samples for hazardous air pollutants to be analyzed by a certain method that called TO15. The DEC will share the results with the city, and of course the city will share those results and make them public after we receive them. After review, the DEC and the city could discuss the next steps for possible sampling. So to summarize, the DEC will be at the site every day when the plant operates and starts up again in 3 weeks, and through the remainder of the commissioning testing period on fuel oil, which should end May 1st. DEC will check to make sure that the CPV operates the SCR and oxidation catalysts air pollution control equipment whenever the turbines are running. The DEC will check to make sure that CPV keeps its commitments to run turbines at high load and high exhaust temperatures during the fuel commissioning period. DEC will check CPV's opacity records and procedures, and they will also conduct independent opacity observations and check that the CPV implements appropriate mitigation when opacity limits are exceeded. The DEC will share the results of its method TO15 sampling and work with the city to conduct additional sampling when the CPV plant starts up again in 3 weeks. The DEC will consult with its lab for recommendations on different sampling methods, and the DEC will add a requirement to CPV's air construction permit renewal that they install, maintain, and operate continuous opacity monitors for the turbine exhaust. And the DEC will provide to the city CPV's quarterly monitoring reports, including opacity, SEMS data, and stack results. The DEC, George from the DEC also provided his number, which many people have because he said he's been receiving calls, but we'll give it again. It's 845-256-3185, and his name is George, and he's, is very much open to receiving your call. So I think we've been making progress in that area. We're not where we need to be, but we've made tremendous progress. Utilization, I think, was an excellent move to hire CDM to bring them on board. The other part I wanted to add is that the people have legitimate concerns about CPV, and we have raised that over and over and over. CPV, can't say it enough, is in the town of Wawayanda. The city of Middletown did not conduct the environmental review. The environmental review was concluded. The findings came out in 2012. The city is selling gray water, which makes the project greener, and that agreement was signed in 2013. Social media is a great thing, and it's also a crazy thing sometimes. And some of the things that people are saying on social media about the city of Middletown and its participation in this project are outright lies. That the city of Middletown is not going to just walk away and shut off the water to CPV, the gray water. If we did that, you might as well pack up your home and move now, because you would be subject to a litigation that would take your home away and take the whole city away. So it's a crazy argument to make. Our job, after the environmentals were done and after the project became a reality and we made it a greener project, is to now hold CPV's feet to the fire, as we are doing, and we will continue to do and continue to hire the monitoring company. Wallkill and Wawayanda are interested in sharing those costs. I've also understand the Village of Goshen may be interested in doing so also with some of the monitoring. So we will be putting together with CDM a plan as we move forward, and of course working with the DEC. On the fracked gas issue, because that seems to be something that I have heard over and over and over, that the fracked gas is somehow creating this toxic, even when the plant is up and running on natural gas, that some of the people, the opponents of CPV, for some reason are leading people to believe that this frack gas is so toxic that it's going to kill everybody in our community and is really going to try to drive down property values in our community. So I started doing some research on fracked gas, and with no opinion on whether fracked gas is good or fracked gas is bad. What I can tell you, as of 2015, 50% of the natural gas used in New York State to heat your homes, to heat your businesses, comes from fracked wells. 50%. So to make an argument that this plant, because it is going to be using natural gas coming from Pennsylvania, is somehow unique and is going to destroy the Hudson Valley is incorrect. You're using it now. Orange and Rockland uses fracked gas to heat your home. We're waiting for the numbers. You want to shut off the fracked gas because New York produces basically no fracked gas and produces very little natural gas at all of any kind. But my argument is not about fracked gas. Some of the opponents, and the real radical opponents on social media, their issue is not CPV. We're going to handle the CPV emissions, or we're going to litigate and get it shut down, just like the DEC said in some of their observations. That is where, if CPV doesn't follow what they said in their environmental reports, and by the way, I had one critic on Facebook, a former school board member, who was criticizing the report of the environmental findings of the town of Wawayanda, and I asked him, I said, your company, the company you work for, they did it. Tell me what's wrong with it. Tell me what's inaccurate about it. Because we'd be more than happy to go after your company if they misrepresented the environmental findings. He hasn't responded. So my point is that people have legitimate concerns. After February 19th, we have real legitimate concerns. We are taking the right steps. CDM is an excellent company. The DEC is very much involved, not only from the regional director, but as you can see from today, from the Albany office. Everybody has the arrows pointing at CPV. If they don't do the right thing, we will litigate. But in the meantime, this fracked gas argument has to be put to sleep, at least from the operational point of CPV, because 50% in 2015, the number is much higher in 2018. I don't know what the number is yet, but it's much higher. 67% of natural gas produced in the United States of America in 2015 came from fracked wells. So let's not make this an argument about fracked gas. Let's make this an argument, and I don't support fracking, by the way. I went up to Albany and I lobbied against it. But it's here. So let's make this our focus as a city and as a city council and myself is to make sure this plant operates the way it said it would operate, the way they submitted to Wawayanda, the way they submitted to the DEC and the EPA, and that should be our focus. We'll continue to fund CDM. They're doing a great job for us, and whatever comes forth, we'll handle it when it happens. So, any questions?
Any question for the mayor? Thank you. Alderman Kleiner.
Yes, sir.
Hi, not on CPV, but on the March for Peace. I know Reverend Charles had asked about if we could do a resolution tonight supporting it. Is that something that you would be?
Yeah, I had so many papers in front of me, I missed the note. I did meet with Reverend Charles
Right.
and offered whatever support we could give, with or without a resolution. He's correct, we don't really need a resolution, but if you want to show a sign of support, that certainly would be welcome. Our involvement will be having police do the escort and allowing them to use the field in the back here by the skateboard park area. And we can provide with them, if they need a stage or if they need something to speak from, we'll help them in that area. But a symbolic resolution certainly would be appropriate and something I would support.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
Oh, I didn't touch on SROs. That's another thing. I told you I was going to be long tonight, and you shouldn't have asked me a question. Back in 2015, when we were having the swatting issues at the schools, I wrote to Senator Bonasek and Assemblywoman Gunther requesting that school resource officers be removed from the, not only the tax cap, but also be removed from subject to a vote by local residents. The reason being is I am a strong supporter of SROs in the schools. In order for us to have trained SROs in the schools, it takes several months of training, and we have to train multiple officers, obviously, because we have multiple schools. If that, we would probably require additional staff. The school would pick up the burden of the cost only during school time, when the officer is for example, the summers when school's off, they wouldn't have the SRO. So usually, I think in the past, when we did it in the past, it came out to maybe 2/3 school, 1/3 city. So we have to make a commitment of additional funding. That funding should not be subject to an annual appropriation or an annual budget vote. I'm sure there are formulas that can be worked out, but we do need SROs back in our schools at every level. And we do need to do it right, so it's not subject, as it was in the past, to change on an annual basis at the whim of the school board or at the whim of the voter. Or I think school security is a major, major focus for all of us, and it's really getting a lot of attention now. And that, so I did resend those letters to Senator Bonasek and Assemblywoman Gunther, asking them for at least a discussion on the issue to see what part the state would play, not only in funding, but removing them from the budget and allowing Middletown and the Middletown School District, if both agree, to fund SROs in the schools that are located within the city of Middletown. So I just wanted to give you an update on that also. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, reports of Alderman. Alderman Burr. Alderman John Francois. Alderman Kleiner.
Thank you. And we'll have Alderman Green and I will be having a second ward constituents meeting on Tuesday, March 12th.